Good evening, everybody. Just give me a couple of minutes. I'm just setting up my other camera for my group, and then we'll get started on the high performance paradox and when success starts costing you your capacity. All right, so I'm giving you a couple of minutes to come on. So I have a question for you. What if your career is performing better than your body? And y'all forgive me, I'm always looking at like 3 or 4 cameras at the same time. So I'm going to try to get it as close as possible as I can. But that's just something I want you to think about. A lot of times, what happens with leadership is that you're looking fine on the outside, you're performing well on the outside, but on the inside, you're not. Physiologically, you're not. And there are silent signs of capacity erosion that we have just normalized as leaders and as a society in general, because we're so part of that hustle culture, that hustle grind, that it becomes that's just how we operate. But the question is not whether your level of functioning is physiologically unstable, is whether it's physiologically sustainable for you to lead in business and in life. Some quiet signs of capacity erosion that we normalize is needing that cup of coffee, needing that monster, needing that Red Bull, needing whatever it is to wake up because you haven't gotten sufficient enough sleep at night. And everybody just normalizes it. Don't talk to this one before 10 o'clock because they're not awake. I'm not awake until I've had my 10th cup of coffee. Where's my Bloom? Where's my Celsius? Where's my Red Bull? And I'm gonna be honest, I was one of those people. I swear by Celsius. Well, that was my drug of choice there. But I drink a Celsius and I'm gone for the rest of the day. And we've normalized that. Hey, I'm just busy. I'm asleep when I die. I'm thugging it out. That's the culture. That's what we've normalized. You're going to sleep, but you're not feeling restored. And a lot of times you're so hyped up, you're falling asleep in front of the TV, you're falling asleep doing work. So you're not really fully rested. Your brain is still on. And even when you're sleeping, subconsciously, your brain is still on. So if you don't have a transitional routine, if you still have open loops, or you're still replaying that argument from the day or that meeting that didn't go the way that you expected it to go, it's going to show up in your sleep. You're going to be dreaming about it. Do you need medication or sleep aids? And a lot of times we normalize that. Oh, I just got insomnia. I'm in the perimenopausal age. I'm in the menopause stage. So I have insomnia, which is true to an extent. Because of hormonal decline in men and women, you will have periods of insomnia. But that doesn't necessitate that that's just normal. We've just normalized it, but it's not normal. That's a signal to our bodies. That's a signal from our bodies letting us know that something needs to be done differently. Brain fog or slower cognitive recovery. You know, I'm in perimenopause, and I laugh at this stuff when I see these memes on social media too. I'm in perimenopause. I'm in menopause. I'm supposed to forget. I walked in the room and I don't remember what I came in here for. Oh, my glasses on my head, but I'm looking all around for my glasses. And I got to have glasses on my head, glasses on my shirt, glasses everywhere. But that's not normal. That's another silent signal from our body that we are not fueling ourselves appropriately, that there's some type of metabolic instability going on. And this is why we're having the brain fog. but we've normalized it as a society. Exercise becomes inconsistent because you're always working. Unfortunately, me and my sister had these discussions before she transitioned. And she would always say, when I get in retirement, I'm going to start exercising. And I'm like, no, we need to exercise now. And the thing that we have to realize is we're not exercising so that we can drop a size down before we go to our best friend's wedding or our kids' graduation or before we go to that next class reunion. This is for your 50, 60, 70, 80 plus year old self. That's what that is for. That's so that you can live independently and functionally in your later years. And also so you can continue your leadership. If you're leading a company, your health is your wealth. If you're not physiologically stable to go into work to lead a company, you're halting your leadership succession already. There was a study not too long ago that said 50% of leadership succession ends abruptly due to health deterioration. So that's just something to think about. And a lot of times we ignore subtle signs of physiological decline until they show up loudly, like a heart attack or a stroke. We don't want to wait for that. Are you monitoring your weight, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your hormones, inflammation? You know, I saw this meme the other day online, and she was so funny. She was talking about dating, and she says, you know, when you get to this age, and I'm of the big age of 53. So when you get to this age, you got to start asking different questions. Like, you know, you can see what the weight is, so you can that's obvious, but you can't see someone's blood pressure. So what that blood pressure looking like? What that hemoglobin A1C? Because your glucose just tells you what your blood sugar is in that moment or for that hour, but your hemoglobin A1C says what your blood sugar normally runs for the last 3 months. What's your hemoglobin A1C looking like? Are you treating those hormones? Are you even aware that's why, you know, for women, we're having the hot flashes? And, you know, I'm so proud of the Gen Xers and the millennials and beyond that we're talking about this stuff now. You know, menopause and perimenopause was a bad word. Nobody talked about it. You just started sweating profusely for no reason. You had low libido, no energy, aches and pains, and it was like a hush-hush secret. It was like it was a communicable disease, and nobody was allowed to talk about it. And then what they still don't talk about is men. Their male menopause is basically andropause for men, because men are having hormonal dysregulation too, but we just call it a midlife crisis because they don't know what to do with their emotions. So they think that they're going to stave off getting older by going to divorce their wife, get a 20-year-old and go get a red Corvette and thinking everything's good in the hood. But what really is going on is you're having hormonal imbalance. Are we monitoring that? Because all of those things affect the way we lead. Your physiology, it undergirds everything in your life. So if that's unstable, you'll start to see the fruits of that. Losing the ability to transition out of work mode. And this is to my high achievers and my executives and my leaders. A lot of times we have to have transition periods, and we don't. We go to work, we work hard all day, and especially, I'm talking to my women right now, especially, and some of my single dads too, but usually my women, because we still are in the remnants of this patriarchal society that cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids is the woman's job. A lot of women are CEOs on their job, and then after they clock out at 8 hours of their CEO job, they clock in for another 8 hours at home, taking care of the kids, washing the dishes, doing homework, and then attending to a spouse. So when do you transition off? What signals are you giving to your body that it's time to slow down, it's time for nighttime, it's time for recovery? Because your recovery infrastructure starts with sleep. That's the foundation. That's actually the first meeting. That's the pre-meeting before your next day. But what is that transition? If you're so tired, by the time you put on your night clothes, your eyes are already closed and you're falling asleep before your body physically hits the pillow. There's no transition routine there. Or we're watching TV because we need something to shut the noise out, because we don't have a transition in place to quiet our minds to prepare us for sleep. Vacations becoming recovery missions instead of enjoyment. And I was bad for that. And then I treat my vacations like it was a vacation marathon. So my itinerary, I'm planning all the things and doing all the things because I don't know when I'm gonna get another vacation. So I'm gonna make sure I sign up for every excursion they got going on this cruise. So am I really relaxing and am I really recovering? You know, or that's the only time we can recover, or the only time we actually get some sleep. Another one is we are performing successfully outwardly, but we know that the same tasks that used to take us 5 minutes now take us 15 minutes, but we don't really know why. Or we'll say, I didn't get good sleep, which that could possibly be true. I didn't get my full Celsius Bloom Monster and thermos of coffee this morning. But what it is, it's compounded sleep debt. It's compounded debt from being unrecovered constantly from your regular life. But it's so normalized, we just miss it because it's a whisper. It's not screaming out loud. So let's talk about the difference between performance, capacity, and longevity. Performance is what you're producing today. Anything that you're doing, brushing your teeth, setting up emails for the next day, pre-planning your meetings, that's performance. Capacity is what makes it possible to keep producing tomorrow. And we're going to talk about that later. So your capacity is physiological, is structural. You know, what is your nutrition like, your movement like, your stress regulation like, what is your sleep like? Because if those synergistic pillars are not done together, you won't have the capacity that you need to successfully, sustainably lead. And then longevity. And this is why this is executive longevity. How long can you protect both? Because that's the longevity. Like I say, everything that we do today is not just for today, it's for our future self. Every time that I eat a protein forward anti-inflammatory meal, it's not for just for today's Sherrie. It's for 80-year-old Sherrie. When I get the appropriate sleep that I need, and this is just a quick little aside, there was several studies done on this. Night shift workers, and there's a reason why we call that 11 to 7 the graveyard shift. But night shift workers that have worked the majority of their career all nights, and I'm raising my hand because that has been me. I've worked more night shifts than I have day shifts since I've been a nurse, and I've been a registered nurse 29 years. They are at a 45% higher risk of getting some type of cognitive impairment, dementias, or Alzheimer's. 45%. Because of chronic insomnia and chronic sleep debt, chronic unrecovery to your body system. So you halt your longevity when you're constantly placing yourself with chronic insomnia and chronic sleep and chronic unrecovery, and just say, oh, okay, well, that's just normal. That's just part of the hustle culture. So I want to ask you a question. And it's not going to be how healthy are you? The question is, does your physiology currently support the level of cognitive and operational demand you're placing on it? Does your physiology currently support the level of cognitive and operational demand that you're placing on it? I don't know if I'm gonna lose y'all on TikTok because it says my phone is overheating. I don't know why. I know for a long time I was not. I was an invisible burnout. If some of you have followed me and I've had podcast episodes about it, I've said that. And I realized that physiologically I wasn't able to sustain. Everything that I'm telling you, I've experienced and I've normalized it because I was working night shift, and I'm working 96. So it was 8 12-hour shifts in a row before I got a day off. And I did that for 6 months while building a business and flying back and forth home and flying back and forth to events for my business for 6 months. I had no capacity. And I just kept telling myself, when I get through this season, when I get through this season, when I get through this season. So I did get through the season. Then I came home. And then I realized I was in burnout. And it was almost a scream burnout. For 5 weeks, I did not work outside of my business. I didn't do anything. Because I realized that everything that I'm advising CEO leaders, senior leaders, executives, high performers, I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. It is just recently, over the last few months, that I actually started not just saying this with my chest, but living it out loud. So this is something we really have to think about. And like I said, because the symptoms are so mild, they're whispers. We don't even pay attention to it. Let's talk about how high performers compensate. And a lot of times, like I said, we push through, we thug it through. That used to be my sentiment. Before I put down the hustle culture cap and said I am in my soft girl business life, I'm in my soft girl era, period. They call it, for the guys, they call it their soft hands era. Well, I'm going to be in my soft hands era, soft girl business life, soft girl boss babe life. This is it. I'm never picking up the mantle of the hustle culture. I used to actually tell myself I will sleep when I die. Now, am I going to retire formally? No, I don't believe in that. But that's just me. Everybody's different. I don't, just the idea of just sitting at home doing what? Nah, because I'm going to be in good health. I'm going to be in my right mind. I don't need to just sit down somewhere and wait on the transition period. So that, no. Sacrifice and recovery. I did that all through my college years. Not this particular college years, because I'm now back in school getting my master's, but my undergrad, all that, most of my work adult life, all that, I was sacrifice recovery. I used to say the first time I had a procedure and I had propofol, because it's like the best sleep in the world. People don't even understand unless you've had, if you know, you know, it is the best sleep in the world. And I said, if they could turn this into a pill, I could sleep for 1 hour and function on 23 more hours and get so much done. Not realizing that I was sacrificing my recovery, not realizing at the time that the purpose of sleep is for our bodies to repair on a cellular level. So our bodies and our brains can rid itself of the waste, of the abhorrent cells in the body, so that we can actually have autophagy going on. So we're not eating. So proper digestion is going forth. It is the body's really structural, it's time to structurally repair. Borrowing sleep. Okay, I'm gonna make up for the 2 hours of sleep that I got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm gonna make up for it on the weekend. Every occasional night of missed sleep, because I mean, we're humans and things are going to happen. Maybe we're in pain. Maybe we have a family emergency. Maybe there's a corporate emergency and we have to work late. But it has become the norm, where most people, it's just normal. Like I said, they roll out of bed and they're already grabbing a Monster or a Celsius. They're coming into work. I mean, I work with nurses who double fist. They have a Celsius and a balloon. They double fisting it, and then a thermos of coffee on top of it. And we just normalize that. And we borrow sleep. I'm asleep. Like I said, I used to say I'm asleep when I die, not realizing I was speeding up my own death. So I'm not doing that anymore. I already talked about relying on caffeine, skipping meals, and then later overeating. Most nurses I know, this is what we do. especially when you work in the ICU, somewhere where it's intense, your patient is critical. I mean, I've worked days where we literally could not leave the room. My patient was so sick, I refused to. And, because there's a life on the line. That's why I came to work. I came to work to save lives. So I wouldn't eat. So I haven't eaten all day. So by the time I get home, sometimes on the way home, I'm like they joke about the people that's coming off the GLP-1s. That's me. Welcome to Popeyes. Okay, can I get an 80-piece box of chicken? Because I'm starving now. I'm going to go to the store and drink a gallon of iced tea because I'm starving now. So we're really doing damage to our bodies when we're doing that. And then we go to sleep on all of that and then wonder why we're not sleeping well, why we're not recovered well, why we're still gaining weight. I don't eat nothing all day. No, you don't, because you just ate 10,000 calories when you got home. So no. We skip working out. I don't have time to work out. I don't have nobody to go to the gym with. You the only person you were born with, and you are the only person you will die with. Unless maybe you're multiple. But chances are you won't die with your twin or a triplet or a quad or whoever it was that you were born with. So we need to be doing strength training. And again, strength training is not for today. Yes, you'll be healthy for today. It is for your 80-year-old self. It is so you won't be in a wheelchair or using a walker or bedridden or depending on family members to care for you or being in a facility because family members can't care for you because they're still working. That's what the strength training is for. Because once we hit the age of 40 plus, everybody, male or female, you're losing 3 to 8% muscle mass a year. And when you're losing muscle mass, you're also losing skeletal mass. That's why a lot of women, especially men too, but a lot of women especially have a lot of fractures as they get older, and their bone density is very poor as they get older. They have osteoarthritis and osteopenia because of the decreased muscle mass. A lot of times we have stuff on our brains. We don't know how to turn our minds off. When you hear people that say, I have to watch TV to go to sleep or listen to the radio or have some kind of noise, a lot of times it's because they have not developed a routine to transition to turn their mind off. I romanticize my bedtime routine now. It makes me feel better, and it also signals to my body, sis, we getting ready to go to sleep. Let me flip on this jazz. Let me take this spa shower. Let me take my time and slather my body in body butter. Let me turn the TV off. Now, like I told y'all, if you follow me in previous podcasts, it is better to journal. There is when you write with a pen or a pencil, it activates more, I can't think of the word, but anyway, it's a better activation in your reticular activating system. It signals off better. But by the end of the day, I'm tired. So I put on my Blu-ray blocker glasses because the Blu-rays from your digital devices, they're antagonists to the melatonin, because melatonin is a hormone in the body that naturally rises at night. So the Blu-ray blocker glasses block the Blu-rays so it doesn't disrupt my melatonin, so I'm able to sleep. And then I voice note into my journal, and then I go to sleep. So we have to close out those mental loops. If I've had a really activated day, activated conversations, something very tragic or severe is going on in my life, then I call it a journal dump. I will pull my journal out, and that's what that is for, and get that off of my brain. I dump it. That's why it's called a dump. I brain dump all of that into the journal. Then I close it. If my mind is still slightly activated, I may turn on some green noise, some pink noise, some brown noise, and I go to sleep. You got to close those open loops. Whatever's on that before your workday ends, start figuring out, okay, I'll do this tomorrow. This is on the schedule for Thursday. This is on the calendar for Friday. Let's reschedule this meeting. Don't go home and replay this in your mind. Your brain is not a mental file cabinet. It will continue to hunt until you close that loop. So a lot of times, because a lot of people, these are silent and they're whispers, they know how to override these things. So they compensate. So on the outside, you look outwardly successful, but on the inside, physiologically, you're slowly declining. And it's like this example I like to give. It's like high blood pressure. And there's a reason why we call it a silent killer versus other chronic modifiable lifestyle illnesses. Because a lot of people have minimal to no symptoms. A lot of times they'll get a thunderclap headache, but at that point, a blood vessel is probably burst in their brain, and shortly after, they will become unresponsive. And a lot of people don't know that their blood pressure is high until they're having a heart attack and or stroke. But they're going along with their normal lives. Everything feels fine. They feel fine because their body has compensated on running a blood pressure of 180 plus over 110 plus for months. So they feel normal. They may get an occasional headache. They probably feel, oh, I'm just stressed or I didn't eat. And they wave it away. And then on top of it, you're not getting regular yearly physicals. So you don't know what's going on in your body. So that's what's going on underneath. So these are some ways, and I call this your recovery, part of your recovery infrastructure, because we have to remember, especially when you're in a leadership position, they're not paying you for your brawn, they're paying you for your brain. They're paying you for your decision quality. They're paying you for your cognitive capital. That's what you're getting paid for. That's why you're getting a 6-figure, possibly 7-figure salary. So how are we going to keep that together? We're going to get sleep, because sleep helps with cognitive recovery and judgment. Like I said earlier, when you're sleeping, we have something in the brain called the glymphatic system, and our body is called the lymphatic system. It is getting rid of all those abhorrent cells while we're sleeping, or all the dysfunctional or mutative cells while we're sleeping. That is the purpose of sleep. And the reason why you need 7 to 9 hours of sleep is for our body to adequately get rid of it. You need 5 cycles of sleep. So you need a light cycle, deep sleep, REM sleep, and I forgot the other cycle, but it's 4. But you need them in 5 successions, at least minimum, to clear your body of all of that. If not, especially in the brain, you start to get plaquing. And that's now we're in an epidemic where we're seeing so much early onset cognitive decline in 50s and 60s because of chronic insomnia over the years. That actually started in your 20s. And a lot of people don't realize that. And that impairs your judgment. You can't make good sound judgment or sound decisions if you're chronically sleep deprived. Another one, like I said earlier, movement. It's metabolic and musculoskeletal capacity. You need muscles. Muscles actually help burn calories. So that's a good thing for our ladies to know. So don't be afraid to strength train. A lot of women are afraid to strength train because they think that they're going to be some muscle bound wonder. You don't have enough testosterone. And if you're perimenopausal or menopausal, your testosterone and your estrogen are slowly declining. So unless you're getting it replaced, and when I say not just replacement, but you're taking something to enhance that, there's no way you're ever going to be some muscle bound wonder. You need the strength training for your muscles. It helps with your metabolism. It also helps strengthen your bones. So you're not falling. So you're not using a walker. So you have good mobility. Then nutrition. Are you eating 30 to 50 grams of protein forward meals? Are you getting enough fiber? Because that helps with satiety. And a lot of times, especially women, we go into menopause and we start getting a little, mom and dad bods, and, we start looking at ourselves and we think that, okay, I'm going to be severely calorie restricting and that's going to help. All you're doing is shooting up your cortisol levels and your body feels like, oh, we're in starvation mode. I'm not releasing nothing. So instead you're gaining weight. So you're working against your body. So you need adequate protein. You need adequate fiber. You need to be adequately hydrated. I cannot say this enough. That little 116-ounce bottle that everybody walking around with all day talking about, I drink water. Wrong. Wrong. So, figure out how much water you need. Everybody's body is different. So I'm not going to pull out the math, because if you have kidney issues, you may need a little bit less water. If you have heart failure, you need a little bit less water, but you still need to hydrate. It's still very important. And preferably with some type of electrolytes in it, because plain water is just not going to get it. Your stress physiology, it helps, it determines your emotional regulation and your decision making. An effective leader, and it's so funny right now while I'm in school, we're learning about transformational leadership. When you're a transformational leader, it is imperative that you are emotionally regulated. But if you're not sleeping good, your metabolism is poor, your nutrition is poor, you're going to be popping off at any given second. You're not going to listen to your team members. Every decision is urgent. You can't differentiate between important decisions and urgent decisions. Your decision making becomes impaired. So you have to think about that. How are you regulating your emotions? For me, I always believed in the don't start none, won't be none. An ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. So how are we taking care of that? For me, I schedule cognitive resets. I get up in the morning, if I can, if I don't have to be to work super early. So at the first morning light, I set my circadian rhythm by walking outside. In the middle of task, I will stop and take 10 minutes of white space, sit on my recliner. I'll take strategic naps, especially if I've had right now I'm in an activated period in my life personally. I have a lot of things going on. So I am the queen of strategic naps. I will do a task, take a nap, do another task, take a nap. When I get off of this live, I'm going to get on my massage chair for 10 minutes. Then I have another task that I need to do. So are we doing those things? Are we taking time for breath work, meditating, journaling, praying? Those are the things that keep your nervous system regulated. And it's best to have a system where you do it normally than waiting for the next crisis, because a lot of people are guilty of that. We'll go along, life is great, and then there's a crisis. Oh, God, help me. Now you're praying? You would want to make that a part of your daily requirement. And then let's talk about some biomarkers and early symptoms. This is the broad advice I'm going to give, because everybody's different. And I don't have time to go through every system of what could be wrong. So here's what general advice that I would just give. If you're from birth to transition, you need to be getting a physical every year. And if your primary care physician says you need it more than that, you need to go more than that. Just to have baseline labs, just to have them check your system over to make sure that you're okay. If you're over 45, you should be getting colonoscopies to check for colon cancers, for your cancer screenings, mammograms to check for breast cancer, prostate checks to check for prostate cancer. If you are having problems with your weight, talk to your nutritionist, talk to your doctor. So I'm not going to give out any medical advice, because that's not what this is about, but just some general things that you need to be thinking about. And if you're in perimenopause or menopause or andropause for my men, you need to, when you get your physical done, talk to your doctor about what your hormone levels look like, because having sufficient hormone levels will help you significantly, especially with your cognitive capacity. If a company had a mission critical asset that was showing progressive performance degradation, do you think leadership is going to wait until it's in complete catastrophic failure, or do you think they're going to address it now? That's the same way we need to be about our lives, our leaderships, and our health. When we see the symptoms and we see that there's a decline, we need to stop now and go to the doctor. Not wait till our pain level is a 20 on a scale of 1 to 10. Not until we're bleeding. And I'm talking to my men specifically, because we laugh about this, but this is the realistic thing that I've seen constantly. We said women, if something goes on 9 times out of 10, they probably will go to a doctor. Men wait until they are bleeding to death or the pain is so excruciating they can barely breathe. That is not the time to go. The time to go is when nothing is wrong. The time to go for your to the dentist appointment, just schedule it. Okay, it's January. I'm going to go get my physical. I'm going to go to the dentist. I'm going to go to the eye doctor. You'll be surprised how many people have found out that they had diabetes or high blood pressure from going to the eye doctor when he looked in the back of the eyes and saw the pressure was elevated. So these are things that you need to be thinking about. Your calendar may say you're available, and that's the thing too. How much autonomy do we have over our calendars? Sometimes you don't. Even as a senior leader and a CEO, you may have an administrative assistant booking your calendar, and you need to have parameters in place to say, hey, if your best thinking is in the morning, like for me, I'm a morning person, my best thinking is in the morning. Don't put any high stake decisions or meetings for me in the afternoon. My mind is already shut down for the day. I'm already thinking about going home, working out, eating a good dinner, and going to bed. I'm not thinking about nothing they talking about going on. I don't care if it's my company or I'm working for you. That's just where my mindset is. So I need that to be in the morning. Set in cognitive resets. I used to go to work and they didn't offer me a break, so I'm not going. Now I tell them, hey, it's about 10 o'clock and I'm taking 10 minutes. As a matter of fact, I don't even ask for permission anymore. I'm telling you, this is what's happening. Okay, I've been here 7 hours. I'm going for my half-hour break. Everybody in this building is qualified to do what I'm doing. I'm gone. But if the leadership culture is I'm gonna work through lunch, never take breaks, go home at night, I need to see when I go on the Slack that you're up doing work, it trickles down to the team. Then you're physiologically incapable of running a company, and your team is physiologically incapable of keeping up with the demands of the organization. So, executive longevity is not about living longer, it's about preserving your physiological capacity that's required for you to lead well. Now, before I go, I want to talk to you about something. Coming up September 14th, we're going to start the founding cohort of the Executive Longevity Lab. And here's why I built the lab, because I saw there was a gap between healthcare, wellness, and executive performance. So you're not going to get generic corporate wellness information, nor are you going to get generic wellness information. What I'm going to do in the lab is help you to identify physiological constraints early and help you build systems that protect your decision quality, capacity, and longevity. So I use a simple framework called the signal framework. So S is we're going to scan, and basically scan is like auditing. Okay, what's going on? Why are we not, why is our sleep not optimized? Why is our nutrition the way it is? Why are we not instituting movement? All of that is part of your recovery infrastructure. So we're going to scan that, see where your challenges are, where your gaps are, and what we can do to fill those. And I is identify. So we will be identifying that. Then G, are we guarding our time? Do we have non-negotiable thinking time? Do we have non-negotiable protected blocks of work time? Are we guarding our recovery infrastructure? Like, I'm very non-negotiable about that. I guard my cognitive resets. I guard my time. If I'm busy doing everything is on do not disturb. When I'm working out, when I'm working on some deep work, whatever it is, I guard that time religiously. And I notice I'm able to get things done in a timely, efficient fashion without being in constant urgency. And then what we need to normalize. Let's not normalize this hustle culture and normalize, double fisting caffeine drinks and taking a bunch of sleepers to go to sleep and, working all day long, never taking breaks, using vacations as a mini break to either turn up like we're back in our college days or to sleep for a week for the weeks of sleep we didn't get. Let's normalize a real system that's going to help us be physiologically sound. And so our 80-year-old self will be thanking us. Then we'll do an audit in the beginning and at the end to see where we started and what progress we've made. And then L is lead. And that's the longevity part. If you don't change anything today, where will your leadership be 6 months from now? How will it show up in your workspace, in your health, in your personal life, in your relationships, in your spiritual life, in your finances? Because it's going to show up. And it may show up in all of those places, but it will definitely show up. So if you're listening to this and realizing that, hey, this is me, and I'm working harder to physiologically maintain performance than I used to, that's why I created the lab. So get on the wait list. It starts Monday, September 14th. And while you're waiting, you can get inside the Executive Longevity Community. It's my free Facebook community. And you'll see a lovely picture of me with some pink and purple flowers. And join. We start the conversation in there. I give you implementation tools and conversations about sustainable leadership, decision quality, and cognitive capital. So thank you for allowing me to have some of your time this Sunday. You'll see me back again at 3 p.m. on Sunday. I should have a podcast episode coming out tonight. I don't know, but can't wait to see you in the community. And definitely, I cannot wait to see you in the lab Monday, September 14th. Enjoy your Sunday.